Well, good evening, council, staff, and for those that are joining us in person and virtually. Today is Wednesday, May the 8th, 2024, commonly known as McHappy Day. Well, it's not my practice to recognize corporation as such. Portion of the proceeds from today's Happy Day goes to the Sarnia Rebound, an organization that has helped many youth within our community. And we certainly congratulate them for all that they do day in and day out. Today also marks the midway mark of Emergency Preparedness Week, which is May the 5th to the 11th. There'll be more information on that further on our agenda. Council, we have a full evening as well as a drainage meeting, so I'd like to keep things moving along as well. You'll notice that we have a supplementary agenda. I'm going to number that one to 8.9, and we'll do it. We follow along on our staff report, so that will be 8.9. I'd like to remind everyone the meeting will be streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, the Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Council, I would remind you if you have a pecuniary interest to please declare it at the appropriate time. On our agenda number 4, delegations. Clerk, do we have any delegations this evening?
No, there's none at this time.
All right, we'll go to item 5. Business arising from previous meetings. A motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Bojan, that bylaw 54 of 2024 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Dylan Cox and the town of Plympton-Wyoming be approved and taken as having been read 3 times, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. You know, we've heard this one before. Is there anything further on this evening? Okay, hearing nothing. All those in favor? Carried. Let's go to item 6. I have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that the minutes be adopted by council and those confidential minutes of the closed sessions of council remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. That would be the regular council meeting minutes as well as the closed regular council meeting minutes of April the 25th, 2024. The planning council meeting minutes as well as the planning public meeting minutes of April the 29th, 2024, which includes a draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment 3096 Lakeshore Road, zoning bylaw amendment 0 Fisher Line, zoning bylaw amendment 5309 and 53110 Layton Street. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. We'll go to item 6.2, moved by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvett, that the minutes be adopted by council and those confidential minutes of the closed sessions remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. It would be the April 10th, 2024 public meeting minutes, the Court of Revision, Federation Line and Norman Street drains, as well as the reconsideration meeting of the Whiting drain. Any questions or anything on that one? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, 6.3, Councilor's report. Deputy?
Yes, sir. I'll go with 10 first. How's that?
Fine.
Okay. We had a parks tour on Saturday. Divided up into 3 teams and took a different area. Oh, is that, I'm taking your thunder? Yeah, no, you're the chair.
You went first.
I will shut up about that one now.
Go ahead.
Okay, no, that's good. I enjoyed the tour we had, and we had a nice lunch, okay? Also, went to a museum meeting this morning. And you know, they're going to, the renewed displays look really nice. It costs a few bucks to put some paneling up against certain panels so they can stick these displays up. But they're getting ready for a grand reopening on June the 8th for the D-Day anniversary. And the first Hussars are going to be there. I think they're bringing some kind of a machine. I'm not quite sure what the machine is or how big it is or anything like that. It's going to be a major event in the museum's opinion, okay? And June 15th is another meeting. Wait a minute. May 15th. There's another meeting with guest speaker Peter Lindhout. I'm not sure what he's going to speak on, but I'm sure it'll be something old since it's in the museum. And anybody interested would be more than welcome to come. That's all I have to say about what I've done this week. And other than, you know, watching the Kentucky Derby. Does anybody care? Bob, did you do anything?
No, I didn't even watch Kentucky Derby. I apologize, Madam Deputy. I was sick
Oh, were you?
10 days, so I didn't do anything.
What, something going around or?
There's something going around
dispersed?
here, all right, yeah.
Oh, it's around
Yeah,
here.
yeah, I think so. A lot of us had it. A lot of us had it.
Okay.
Yeah, so sorry.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad to
Better
see you
now.
back. Can you get that done?
That's for the 175th county chops.
Oh, okay, good. Mr. Van Claveren.
Thank you. Yes, Deputy Mayor, I cannot grow chops, but I have nothing to report, actually.
It's been, you know, this is not going well, is it? Mr. Bougen, what have you got to report?
Council wise, I had environmental committee last Thursday. It was a lighter agenda, so really the only report is in our agenda tonight. So the committee did have a chance to review that ahead of time. We also had a special events committee meeting on Monday. And the only update there too, the first is that the Picnic in the Park event at McCabe Park is back and it's on June 8th. And there's also a date change for the community safety event, which is in July. It was moved to the 27th. It's now back to July 20th because of a scheduling conflict. So I know that date was wrong in the newsletter just because we changed it after they were printed. So that date has changed to the July 20th.
Okay, and you're not going to say anything about your lack of sleep?
And I'm also running on very little sleep, but I can't complain because I'm still getting a decent amount, like 4.5 to 5 hours.
That's good.
I'm not doing
Do you
as
get
much work as the wife.
up in the night?
I do. I change diapers. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think my wife actually might be listening. So
So you better be on it. Okay, Mike, Mr. Vazen.
Well, as you know, we have. On the 4th, we did 3 groups, went out, we check all the parks, just basically how they made it through the winter and looked for, there were no major defects, no major damage found. Just a list of stuff that the boys will be working on and they've been out and about and they look pretty good actually for this time of year. For the rain we've gotten, they're pretty decent shape, so. And that's all I have to.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you. So I had the Plympton County Regional Trails meeting last Thursday. And Rose Atkins from St. Clair Township, I think she used to be a counselor. She's been on the St. Clair River Trail System group committee since its inception. And so she went through the whole history of how the trail was established down in St. Clair. It went from like 1 kilometer to now 36 kilometers, I believe it is. So quite a feat over the last 30 years. She was talking about how they're doing their active transportation master plan and explaining all the considerations that municipalities should look at when they're looking at updating their policies and stuff, like So for like sidewalks, curbs even, so she was explaining how like some of these curbs now they have swales in them for drainage, which doesn't make it bike friendly. So sometimes we're thinking of one thing, another thing, so she's kind of going over all that stuff, so it was quite neat
Mhm.
to listen to it all.
And that's it? That's all you did? Oh, I mean, is that?
That's all I can remember, because I got pretty sick after that. so-
You got sick too?
Yeah,
Holy,
yeah.
you didn't get sick because you weren't here, Alex.
Great.
Yeah.
How about you, Mr. Mayor?
I'm still well, thank you. Thank you, Deputy. Just a reminder to council to support any of, if you're able to, any of the special events committee activities. I believe as well, Vancouver will become, Burger Days in Wyoming will be coming up on Father's Day weekend. The question, do we have a tree planting going on at Webster Park this Saturday?
Yes, this Saturday.
9:30?
Yes, sir.
Bushes for underneath the trees that were planted last year.
If anybody's available, I'm sure they would appreciate help. And if we have any students that need some hours, I'm sure we can help them out as well. So that's all that I have, Deputy, at this time.
Good. Then whoever comes to the tree planting, bring your shovels.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. All right, let's go to item number 7.1. I have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the council remuneration claims for April 2024 be approved for payment. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll go to 8.1. Get into our staff reports. A motion by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Vaizey. You guys sit together and your writing looks similar, you know that?
Just forging my signature before I got here.
The report by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator, dated April the 29th, 2024, regarding the Section 4 petition for 476 Zone Street be received for information. Ms. Cummings is here. Is there anything to add to that, Ms. Cummings? Okay, any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Go to 8.2, a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvett, that the report by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator, dated April the 29th, 2024, regarding the Section 4 petition for 7080 Bonnie Doon Road be received information. Again, we have Ms. Cummings with us in case there's any questions. Councillor Wolvett?
Just one question there for verification. We look at the report on the costs and who that's going to be assessed to. Now in the previous one, obviously it was totally assessed to the what do you call it? The
Landowner?
yeah. Now this one here, only a third is applied to the person that signed the petition, and yet the town got charged $1,000. We didn't petition it. I appreciate the fact that it's under the driveway and on the road, but we didn't petition it, so why are we being charged anything? And it didn't happen.
Your worship. So the town is being charged because the town requested the engineer to do further investigation to move the drain. The petitioner actually just requested a stub for access to the new drain, to the property to this beside him. So that's why the towns, so we requested the engineering to be done to have it moved, but then when the petitioner and the other owners on the Bonnie Doon drain, they weren't in favor of proceeding with that.
So the town chose to add to it, so that's why they're being, okay, thank you.
Exactly, thank you.
Does that answer your question,
It
Councillor?
does, thank you.
Any questions? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried.
That's a presentation.
All right, let's go to 8.3. Motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvett, that the report by David Clark, Community Emergency Management Coordinator, dated April the 24th, 2024, regarding the status of the municipal emergency management program and ongoing projects be received as information. Well, welcome back, Mr. Clark. It's a pleasure to see you again, and I understand you have a presentation for us this evening.
Yeah, I don't come to council, your mayor and members of council, that I don't try to lecture everybody. It seems to be my perfect. But I was asked to give an update on understanding with the emergency management program since I began in the fall. Last year, as you see from the slides, it was mainly the focus was on compliance, becoming compliant for the year 2023. That included doing a new emergency plan, new bylaws covering the plan, trainings and exercise, which was conducted in November, and then updates to the hazard identification risk assessment for the community and critical infrastructure listing. That was all done, and happy to report that just a few weeks ago, the municipality, your worship, you received a letter from the province saying that we were indeed compliant for 2023. And they have just this week opened the portal so we can start working on our compliance for 2024. So since the new year began, the focus has been on expanding the program further. So we've done an updated appendices to the plan, which is really the emergency yellow pages for all emergency services to respond to an emergency and recovery. We've got full copies of the plan now that have been assembled together with the appendices, and they're in binders and they're here in the EOC. We've done some more further revisions to the hazard and risk assessment, getting into a more modern format, focusing on the various hazards and risks within the community and the critical infrastructure. And we've also focused on public education. So we started with new flyers going out about winter weather, safety. There was the eclipse earlier in beginning of April. So a lot of safety. We worked for a couple of months. Staff was excellent in getting constant updates to the website and the social media on how people can be safe. Don't look at the sun with sunglasses. Hopefully we won't have any problems down the road. And also emergency preparedness week. So that's going on right now. And staff, again, have been putting out social media messaging and on the website. More to come on that. So we'll have everything seasonal coming. So there's more of that coming our way. And ongoing projects, we've got a simulation exercise in May, which will encompass a rail emergency somewhere within the municipality. We're currently working on a joint exercise with the county that will happen in September. So myself and the county CEMC are currently crafting that exercise. We've got about half of it done, and it's so much fun. So we'll be running it at Plympton-Wyoming as well as with the county. And it's just how nasty can we get during this? And we're having so much fun wringing our hands together for this one. We're reviewing our evacuation planning. So if there was an emergency and we had to evacuation a portion of the community, renewing our agreements with both our non-governmental agencies like the Red Cross and with local service groups for looking after evacuees. Also, I'm working on a training program now for shelter managers and volunteers that will work there if we had to have a reception center or an evacuation. And obviously working with the county and the various CEMC on joint projects to enhance the safety. So keeping pretty busy. I'm working only a couple days a week, but obviously we're making the best of it. And now, as the mayor mentioned, we are in Emergency Preparedness Week, which began on Sunday and ends on Saturday. The theme this year is Plan for Every Season. So, question is, have you ever thought about how to prepare for an emergency personally? Next. How would you look after your own families for up to 72 hours? Now, they say that you should have a 72-hour kit. In the fall, we ran with, we ran that exercise about a water outage with the laws system going down, and we were about 4 or 5 days without water. And then afterwards, there's boiled water on top of that. So how do you cope with no water for the better part of a week to a week and a half, or without power? We're used to the power goes off and it comes back on in a few hours, hopefully, and people get quite reliant on that. Well, you may remember in 2003, there was blackout where 66 municipalities across East Ontario into Quebec were without power. It took 4 days to figure out what had even caused it. It was out for 5 or 6 days. It was, I think, 3.5 days in when they turned out it was a squirrel. on the wires down at a substation in the US that caused this backfeed problem that took it out. It wasn't something that could be fixed within a couple hours. How would you contact your family for information? How would they get information in an emergency? So the next slide is the majority of Canadians believe that having a home emergency kit is important. The reality is probably about 80 to 90% don't have one. Now, I will not ask counselors to raise their hand asking about who has a personal kit in their homes. But next slide. Most emergencies, people think they're short-lived. These are myths. These are misconceptions and myths. Oh, I won't have to deal with emergency where I live. Oh, there are a lot of emergencies I can't just prepare for. And preparing takes too much time or it's too expensive. Well, it's not. The reality is you can do it cheaply and quickly. Next. We have to, the theme this year is be prepared for every season. We have seasonal threats and we have our ongoing threats. So severe weather can come different seasonal. Obviously, this time of year, we're worried about severe thunderstorms. We could get into flooding. High winds, well, that could be any time of year. Power outages very often. Wind blows, we get severe storms, knocks down power lines. Extreme heat or cold, depending on the season. We've got road and rail. Well, we've got the 402 running through our municipality. We've got major rail corridors running within about 100 yards of where we're standing right now. Farm animal disease is on the agenda right now, or on the, I should say, on our radar. If anyone's been reading the news, H5N1, which is an avian influenza. A lot of people don't realize that migratory birds, all these birds that float around various farms, they regularly carry 27 strains of avian influenza. They're not affected by it, but will affect other animals they come in contact with. Right now, avian influenza in the H5N1 in 8 US states has gotten into the dairy herds. And so now including Michigan, which is contiguous to us. So they're looking at mortality rates could be up to 50% if it gets to humans, but they're saying they're worried about with the milk supply. They've been separating those herds, so supposedly that milk doesn't hit the market. Well, the reality is they're testing milk in some of the US markets and finding remnants of the virus, not active virus, but remnants after pasteurization in the milk samples. So there's big concerns because that have a big impact on the whole industry. Fire, obviously, regular water emergencies, cyber attacks are big. Human health emergencies, they're talking about medical professionals, talking about the next pandemic. There are another respiratory illnesses that are already being found. And then oil and natural gas, not just ongoing, but abandoned wells. In Lambton County alone, I believe it's 2,700. There are 5,700 in Lambton County alone, abandoned oil and gas wells. And we remember what happened in Wheatley with sulfur dioxide and methane coming up. So those are some of the threats that are on our hazard identification. We basically identify them. We come up with plans and processes of how to, to mitigate things before they occur. So how prepared are you individually? Next. In a large emergency, it can take up to 72 hours before emergency services can get to you. You may be blocked off with a road area, so we can't get into that area. There are areas even within this municipality that are difficult to get into with large apparatus to fight fires. So you should have a home emergency kit. Now in that kit should be some non-perishable food, beans, canned ravioli, spaghetti and meatballs, canned tuna, bullied beef, things like that. I'm personally readily admit that I actually enjoy cold beans out of a can and cold ravioli or spaghetti and meatballs and ravioli. Maybe it's because I'm a guy and I don't like to do dishes, but it'll keep you going in an emergency. Water, you should have 2 liters per person per day for drinking. Another 2 if you're going to be washing. Now, most of the water bottles we have around are a ½ liter, so you need about 4 of those per day, but you don't have to go out and buy yourself a whole bunch of flats of water. Simple thing is to get a jug, get an empty jug, maybe it was a vinegar jug, it could have been a water jug from before, whatever. Make sure it's clean, fill it up with tap water, take 2 to 3 drops of good quality bleach, just like a Clorox or something. I hate dropping names, but something, good quality bleach, drip it in, seal it up, put it away in a closet. It's good for a year. Next emergency preparedness week, take it out, empty it out, fill it up again. Simple way to have water. You don't have to go out and buy it. Should have flashlight, batteries, a first aid kit, hand sanitizer, or some wet wipes. A radio, whether it be a crank radio, one with batteries, so you can get news of what's going on. List of your medications, pet food, if you get stuck without just a bag of kibble or something. How many people here have pets? A dog or cat? Yeah. There are people that when they evacuate rather leave their kids behind than their pets, because when you tell the pet to stay, it usually does. But I know it's terrible to say, but other things you should have as well. Important papers, copies of your insurance, prescriptions, some cash. In the power outage, okay, by the way, debit cards and credit cards don't work. Most gas stations, like 99% of them, don't have backup power. So even if you had a card, they can't pump. So the idea is having, they always recommended $200 in small bills and have it tucked away someplace, but don't tell your teenagers where it is. And that way, in an emergency, when debit and credit cards aren't working, you can still buy that loaf of bread or a jug of milk or a dozen eggs or something to keep going. Something to entertain yourself, playing cards, a couple games, a book. Garbage bags and duct tape, great to have. So next, you don't have to go out and spend $300. Next time you go to the store, pick up 2 extra cans of beans when they're on sale, or something's on sale, or raviolis on sale, tuna's on sale. Pick up a couple of cans and put it at the back of the pantry. Now, every so often you rotate it through so it doesn't get old back in there, but you spend a couple dollars. You don't have to go out and spend $300 on buying all this stuff that'll feed your family for 3 days. A little bit at a time. And then cycle it through. Next, you should have a kit for a go bag. If you had to evacuate quickly and there's a fire and someone knocks on the door and says, you got to get out of here right now. It's fire department said we got to evacuate the neighborhood. Boom. You have a go bag in a couple bottles of water, a list of your medications. If you don't have medication available, just have a list of what you need or you're taking. Very often we get people show up at a reception center and they're like, oh, I left my medications at home. Can I go home to get it? Well, no, that's blocked off. Well, you can't go back in there. Well, I need my medication. It's important. We can get you an emergency supply from a pharmacy. What do you take? Well, I take a little pink pill in the morning and a yellow one in the afternoon. And that's what people remember. So having that list of what you actually take so we can get a supply for you. A copy of your insurance or your passport, just photocopies are there so that we have the information. If your house burnt down or it was flooded, how do you contact your insurance company? A lot of people know the company, but don't have the number. Toothbrush, toothpaste, cash, I mentioned, some pet food if you got pets when you're leaving, a comfort item for your dog or cat to keep them calm while they're out. If you've got special needs family members, certain things for them that they may need. Playing cards, a book, something like that, and charge cord, an extra charge cord. You pick one up at the dollar store when you buy a couple extra charge cords, tuck it away, because how often do we get there and we're out and we don't have a charge cord and our phones are going dead, or our tablets or our computers? Great to have. Should have one for your car. And again, it doesn't have to be the huge. Matches, a candle, a can with a candle going in it will keep you warm in a car in the dead of winter. Tow rope, booster cables, a blanket, flashlight, first aid kit, kitty litters in case you get stuck, windshield wiper fluid. You can buy a kit pre-made, like Canadian Tire, Home Hardware, something like that, under $50. Great idea to have it. Great gift for your teenagers or something if they're driving, or any family member for a birthday or Christmas. Get an emergency kit for their car. May not sound romantic, but it'll keep them alive if something happens. And a list of your contacts. I can remember every home, every phone number I had growing up here, my grandparents' number, the cottage number, everything. Will you ask me now what my son's number or my mother's number is? Couldn't tell you for the life of me, because it's a number in the phone. It's a speed dial. So have a list of your contacts in case your phone goes down. How are you going to get a hold of family members and let them know you're okay? I think it's really important to have that. Some municipalities, what we do is we even have like little wallet cards that we put in. It's got everybody's number on it in case phones die. We can grab a different phone and we can contact. Last slide. And I always like save this one for last. The only thing tougher than planning for emergency is trying to explain why you didn't. So that's it. That's my emergency preparedness week push to everybody. Go out now and get yourself an emergency kit or start building one piece at a time so that if something goes wrong. I find that people in rural areas, like more the people that tend to live more finding it on farms or whatever. I know this may sound straight. They are more prepared because they tend to buy groceries for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time. You know, I still remember my grandmother was like sack of flour, sack of beans, sack, you know, and they were great for long periods of time. If you live in an urban area, especially in the city of Toronto, the only way they're going to be prepared for 72 hours is if they can live on condiments, because that's about all they got in their fridge. I've run into this in more of the urban areas where, yeah, I get enough to make it till 8 o'clock and that's about it. So, but anyway, that's any questions? Yes.
So just a comment, actually, thanks for that presentation. That's awesome. You know, living in this community, you know, those railroad tracks there, the amount of trucks that are going through this right downtown Wyoming. And of course, the 402, which is a little further out. You know, you watch the news and almost not almost every single day, either a train or a transport truck loaded with gasoline or whatever it's happening, right? So we kind of take it, I think, for a little bit for granted here that what's going through here is pretty bad stuff, you know, so you need to be prepared. So
The city of London is currently discussing the train with the 4 cars on fire that went through a residential area. Well, guess what? It came through here first.
yeah,
And so whether it was on fire when it went through here, no, I can't tell you, but it was by the time it got close to London. So, and that's, luckily it was railway ties. If it had been backed up next to a propane tanker car, that's a whole new ballgame.
thank you for that, President.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. We certainly appreciate that. It was a good report. And some good information to be shared with council and our residents. Yeah, take it to heart. Thank you. Anything else further on this motion? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to 8.4. I have a motion, Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren. That the report by Norma Roddick-Priest dated April the 22nd, 2024 regarding the enrollment of non-full-time NFP bracketed firefighters into OMERS be received, and that council endorse enrolling firefighters under the OMERS plan. Direct staff to proceed with issuing enrollment forms, the collection of funds, the reallocation of reserves, cover the 2023 payment, carry out the necessary remittance. Hopefully you've had a chance to review this. Roddick-Priest is here, the author of this report. Are there any questions?
I'll be stepping up for this one, declaration.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Bogan.
Thank you.
Councilor Vaizey, you're first.
Oh, because he left.
You won.
So second fiddle.
You go to Councilor Rodriguez, he'd still be secondary.
My first thought of this is this endorsed by fire management?
No, sir, it has not been brought to the fire board.
Go there first before it comes here?
Ideally, but unfortunately, we got notice from OMER sent 2 letters out. The first letter was received shortly after the last fire executive committee meeting. The game plan that staff had put together at that time was to meet with the county CAOs and clerks to see what the county as a whole was going to do to address this, so that we used resources from each other to come together with a more coherent game plan. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks after we received the first letter, a second letter was received from OMERS, putting us on a deadline to make a decision. That deadline was prior to the next fire executive committee meeting. So unfortunately, we did not get the opportunity to vet the report with the fire executive committee.
My second thing on this is it to me is a whole lot of kind of overkill to the fact that part-time fireman and now I'm getting a pension. It seems like we're putting money in, the fireman's putting money in to get a little bit out at the end. I don't think it's necessary. And if it was, then where are we coming up with the $24,000 a year of our share to put into it? Not too long ago, we went from a minimum of 1 hour calls to 2 hour calls. So maybe we cut that back and use that money if we're gonna go that way. Huge expense to the fire department. Something that nobody expected. Wasn't that long ago, we weren't expecting to be paid.
Campbell,
If I may, through yourself, worship, your worship, we've talked about this. I just came back from a convention. Other departments are going this way. They unfortunately they're having the same concerns that you are, Councillor Vasey. 100%. I hope everybody can hear me. But I think if we really look at this, there's not a lot of benefit to the firefighters as a whole to sign up for this program, and it is going to be their option to do that. There is a few folks in this room that do have, a few folks in this realm that have onerous pensions besides that because they work for municipalities. Of course, they're going to be affected, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't see the number being a huge number. A lot of, like, if we go with Meaford, they've signed on with this. They've done the same sort of thing. They're finding that the fraction of their firefighters are even interested because it ends up costing them more of their pay than what they're getting back.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Anything else, Councillor Vasey?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Rodriguez?
Yeah, thank you. Well, the question in the staff report, is, do we consider firefighters employees? Or is that correct? So under occupational health and safety and WSIB, they're considered workers. Under the income tax, act, they get the first $1,000 exemption. And the reason why that exemption exists is because duties performed are paid a nominal fee compared to what the cost would be for a regular full or part-time worker. And then for EI and CPP being exempt, it's because volunteers are not obligated to respond to emergencies. They may have training obligations, but aren't required to perform minimum hours of work. So under those definitions and constitutes an employee, I would say no, that they're not. And I don't find quarterly, like some of them don't even get paid because some of them aren't even going to calls because they don't have to. We can't dictate what they do. And I agree that I believe OMERS is kind of expanding this, much like why CPP came up with CPP 2.0. Everybody's looking for more money to put in a pool for a pension, but who's really benefiting from that at the end of the day? And I don't believe it'll be these firefighters. I mean, even if you took the 56 firefighters divided by that 269,000, that's 4,800 a person, which it doesn't work out that way, but let's just say. That's $8,600 you'd be collecting over 10 years, and they might get $100 a month. And then when we have our chief saying we have an average of 2 to 5 years life in a firefighter career. What's the point, right? So, and then on top of it, we've never really even reached out to the firefighters to see if there's even interest through some sort of survey or questionnaire and have them understand how it all works. So to me, none of this really makes sense at this point. And then, if we did constitute him an employee, what are the implications of that? Because Then where are we going with that? Benefits, you know, does the taxable, non-taxable portion go away? Do we have to do wage increases? There's all kinds of different implications if we define them as a regular part-time employee. So those are my.
Charlie Priest, comment on that?
Those are all valid points. When OMERS came out with the non-full-time thing, that was June 1st of 23. And so at that point, full staff, grass cutters, all of them had to be put on this list. And at that time, nobody ever said anything about the firemen. Now that has come to light. And so it's not my decision to say that they are or they aren't, but you know, in reality, we do treat them as employees. And when they, when we give them the forms and they can think it through, many of them may not want to, because many of our other employees that came on as part-time in 23 decided not to. There were some that did. But not to offer them, because now that OMERS has decided that the volunteer firefighters are part of this. And, you know, we need to make that decision and let everybody feel that they are employees, but they need to make their decision with council and go from there. I know, like, with all the discussion and the questions, like, you know, sometimes they are employees, sometimes they aren't, but if we don't let them feel that they are employees, how are we gonna work that together? Like, as a team and go forward. It is their decision to join or not to join, but it is your decision to offer them or not offer.
Rodriguez?
Thank you. I feel like you're kind of packing two things together that I don't feel belong together, in my opinion. It's not a matter of not making them feel like employees, in my opinion. I think there's a whole different definition under Revenue Canada. There's a lot of things that are in place, so volunteer falls under its own category. And the stipend that they're getting also have its own definition too. So to change that trajectory from what it is and how it's being treated now to this has a lot of implications with it that aren't as simple as maybe we're looking at it here. There's a lot that comes with that change in designation, is my point. And then my other point is not to not offer this to the firefighters. I mean, obviously it's to reach out to the firefighters. That would have been nice to happen first before even going this far, to even gauge the interest. And then the education portion of it, you know, what are they even going to get back from this? And again, I go back to, I think they're just looking for more money from everywhere they can get it.
Chief Campbell?
Through your worship, thank you very much. If I may, a couple things. Number one, Councilor Rodriguez, you said a very good thing here. There's a number of different acts that we're dealing with, and they have a number of different definitions as to what a volunteer is. Will this be another one that sways in one direction or another? Absolutely, that could have an effect. The reality here is this has happened so quickly with so little warning. We don't know what the ripple effects of that are going to be. You're right, though. We have multiple acts that mean multiple definitions. With this being another one, being one way or another, it could have some ripple effects. We're not going to know that for quite some time. I do agree with you, though. It's good from a recruiting standpoint to say this is something that's available. But you're right. It would have been a lot more conducive to go out and reach out to those firefighters and ask if there was an interest. We simply didn't have time. They threw this at us very, very quickly. I would suspect that overall the remuneration is not going to be that large. You've said that yourself. With the amount of money we're really talking, it's going to cost the volunteers more money than it is the reality of the paid on call employees, we should call, you know, whatever you want to call them. But the staff are, you know, they're going to have that option. the reality here is that when it comes to benefits and things like that, again, those are things that council would have to, again, look at separately, and there will be a cost involved. So I don't foresee that being a stepping stone to that issue. I think they're they're two separate issues. And if you look at the way OMERS asked the questions, they asked very specific questions, and we had to answer yes to a number of them. And that, as far as OMERS is concerned, puts them in that employee status. What that means, it's up to the council to make that decision. But again, I think it's important to understand that we are dealing with a number of different acts that do have a number of different definitions. And this might be just another act that has a different definition.
Mr. Sabansky?
And to further the chief's comments, the one challenge that we put ourselves in is the first two questions are right in the discussion portion of the staff report. How is the position described and agreed upon? Our firefighters are paid an hourly rate for their work. So they're not paid a annual stipend broken up over quarters. And then they're paid their wages over intervals. So they're being paid an hourly wage, which is actually above minimum wage, not just a flat rate for the year. So that also pushes them towards the part-time employee status more than the volunteer status. If they were just paid the annual stipend, that might change it in the eyes of OMERS.
If I may. Again, the reason why you get the $1,000, first $1,000 exempt is because they're paying paid a nominal fee as compared to a regular or full or part-time employee. So if you compare their pay to like a city fire department, I'm assuming, right? There's no comparison here. It is, in my opinion.
And I don't think OMERS is trying to compare full-time firefighters versus part-time or volunteer firefighters. They're simply trying to show the differences between not looking at full-time because they're in OMERS. They're looking at the differences, what constitutes a volunteer in the eyes of the pension program versus what constitutes a part-time employee in the eyes of the pension program. And by asking those leading questions, that's what they did to try to help guide you to determine what, if they are paid as volunteers, which in their opinion means a stipend, or paid as employees, which is an hourly rate. So that's kind of why filling out those forms or the questions from OMERS led staff to make the decision and the suggestion they did.
Chief Campbell?
Through your worship, thank you. Yeah, I would completely concur with Mr. Szymanski's comments. And the other thing I would also say too is that, again, it goes back to that. Revenue Canada is going to recognize them one way. The OMERS pension plan may recognize them another. And really, it's up to OMERS and Revenue Canada to sort out that between them. That's not really indicative of us. We have to kind of go with the criteria OMERS set out, and that's why that recommendation is pretty poignant in one direction.
I'm gonna have to go to my left. Any questions from the Deputy Mayor, anything from you?
No, I think Ms. Rodriguez sort of covered it well. I really agree with her. Don't mark that on the wall. And then, so, yeah. You're writing this down. But I don't think it's necessary. They're volunteers. Yes, okay, they get paid something, of course. But in my opinion, it's not necessary.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Van Claveren?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It just doesn't seem to make sense any way you slice it. There's no sense that comes from it whatsoever. And if we're gonna do something for our first responders, our volunteer firemen, it better be something a lot better than what I've seen here. This is an insult.
Thank you. Councilor Bovet?
Yeah, there's been a whole lot said about this. Now, mind you, just remember, we only just got this a couple of days ago. So very hard to digest all this and knowing the exact figures. You know, I've thought about it myself, and I mean, just looking at $50,000, $48,000 a year here right off the top, which by the way, isn't in any budgets. It's not budgeted for to start with, certainly not in the fire budget. So when you look at $50,000, who's going to benefit from this and how many years are going to take to get anything out of it? Who would be eligible right now to get a pension? More than $5 a month. I mean, it's going to take years. So if a fireman put in 9% of his pay, 9% of his pay, he's going to have to stay here for 40 years to get $50 a month. You don't have to be a mathematician. So and the other thing I'm going to say about the rush here and we only have certain dates, I don't buy any of that. If this is so important to OMERS that they need some more funding or whatever, more retirees or pensioners, then there's no deadline to it. It can be done at any time. So if you're going to present something like this to 55 to 60 firefighters, you better have the figures in front of you that says, okay, if you put in 9% of your pay and you stick with us for 15 or 20 years, here's what you're going to get. You got to know what you're being offered, because some of these firefighters, they'll be lucky to make $700 or $800 a year, depending on how many fires they go to. So at 9%, I mean, you're not going to get much of a pension check. So, let me be very clear. I'm willing to give our firefighters whatever they need. I think we all agree with that. We take care of our firefighters, but I'm going to go with John here. This is not giving them anything. So if it's so important to OMERS, then put some more time on it, a year or two. Let's give them some figures and for us, some figures, instead of just agreeing to $50,000 a year. Who's going to benefit? So I don't buy it.
Mr. Sabinsky?
Thank you. And we understand council's concerns. We share them. This report was written based off the information we were provided by OMERS, based off the questionnaire that we filled out from OMERS, and unfortunately based off the time schedule we were given by OMERS. We are not happy with the fact that we had to rush this report to you. We do not like having our backs put by the wall by OMERS or any other company to rush to make a decision, because then we have to rush you to make a decision and you don't have information, you don't get to do adequate consultation. So we share your displeasure, but we had to write the report based off of what we've filled out. So with the cost estimate, please keep in mind that that cost estimate is worst case scenario. That's if every firefighter agreed to it. As we know very clearly, as part-time volunteer employees whose incomes are not high, this has little to no value at all to them. The only firefighter who would have benefit from this is those firefighters who are actively looking for employment in a full-time department in a municipality, or those firefighters who are already employed as a municipality. There's really minimal value to the other firefighters, because you all hit it on the head. The return on this would be very low. So we agree with everything you're saying. However, based off the questionnaire, we made a recommendation in the report that you have in front of you.
Good, thank you. Good conversation, good discussion, and good points, everybody. Okay, we've got a call for the vote. As been presented, all those in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Could you get Councillor Bozeman back, please? Okay, we're gonna do one more, and then we'll turn it over to Councillor Ben Clavin for the drainage meeting. Thank you, Councillor Bojan. We're gonna go to 0.5 on your agenda. Moved by Councillor Wolvette, seconded by Councillor Van Clavin, that the report prepared by Paul Da Silva, Director of Public Works, dated April the 26th, 2024, regarding the Michigan Line Reconstruction Phase 3 tender results be received, and that the tender from Sevcon Paving in the amount of $579,457.76 net HST be accepted, and that bylaw 51 of 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times and finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Mr. Da Silva, the author of this report, is with us. Any questions? Councillor Bojan?
Thank you. Just through you to Mr. Da Silva. So I'm assuming this gets us past Fleming and just short of Kamlaki Road. And I know in phase 1, I think for sure, and maybe phase two, there was a lot of setbacks of unexpected total reconstructions of the road and stuff that kind of blew the budget up and shortened the distance. Are we foreseeing the same thing to continue happening in each phase? Or do we have any sort of confidence that this money is actually going to get us that stretch of road, or just we can't predict it?
So yeah, through your worship, great question. It is tough to predict, but I know that after that phase, they shortened up the intervals in the boreholes that they did. So there's a lot more confidence that we know exactly what's there with a lot less of I guess, unknowns in terms of the sub-base material.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Yes. Staff is recommending that the project be extended to utilize the remaining 2024 budget funds in the amount of 200,000. I'm a little bit confused on your statement, sorry. So we had 850,000 budgeted. What's the 200,000 you're referring to?
So through your worship, it's just the difference between what was tendered, how much we're spending on engineering, and the pre-purchase of a big culvert that we're going to be installing during this project. So it's just the surplus. And we're at 650 now. We budgeted 850. We just want to use the remainder of the funds.
Which will bring you to that Kamlaki.
Additional 400.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Just a question, Mr. De Silva. Do we know the start time when they're going to start that project?
Yes, we do actually. They want to start right after they're done the Wanstead project because they have that as well. So sometime in early to mid-July, because we want to get the tar and chip down in August when we have the heat. So we want to be done the project by the second week of August.
Okay. Good. All right, council, we're gonna take a brief 2 or 3 minute break, and at 6 o'clock, Councillor Van Claveren will be chairing the drainage meeting. Who do you have that'll be sitting out?
Yourself, Mr. Mayor, and Deputy Mayor will be sitting out.
How does that happen? Every single time.
It must be because we're so important.
They need your expertise.
The answer was, we've been through so many drainage meetings. We want to give experience.
Go ahead and get started. It's just shortly here after 6. Hearty welcome to all here. This is indeed the Court of Revision for the Whiting Drain. At this point, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest at this time? If so, if you would declare that, excuse yourself. This meeting and the purpose of this meeting is to hear appeals from landowners regarding the schedule of assessment only, not to discuss or debate or charge against any of the work to be done, but the assessment only as set out in the engineer's report dated March the 6th, 2024 for the Whiting Drain. The Court of Revision has no authority to change the engineer's report in any way. The schedule of assessment may be altered, but the total must remain the same. If one assessment is reduced, then the other assessments must be increased to balance. Allow me to introduce the members of the court and the staff that are present. Councillor Bob Wolvett, Councillor Alex Bojan, Councillor Mike Facey, and Councillor Kristen Rodriguez. Our staff includes Drainage and Engineering Coordinator Elizabeth Cummings, our Drainage Clerk Jessica Wilson, Director of Public Works Paul De Silva, our Executive Assistant Ella Flynn, and our engineer on this project is Mr. Mike Garretts. Mr. Garretts, you're ready to speak to this particular drain, please, in your assessment schedule.
All right, through the chair and to council, or the Court of Revision, I should say, the estimated cost of the drainage works was assessed in the following manner. The Egremont Road crossing, the cost of the road crossing less any benefits was assessed with 98% of the estimated cost as a benefit assessment to the road authority, and the remainder assessed as an outlet assessment upstream lands. The tower repair and outlet repair have been assessed with 60% of the estimated cost as a benefit assessment, the remainder as an outlet assessment to upstream lands and properties. And the steel groin that extends out into the lake has been assessed with we're incorporating that into the drain under this report, and it's been assessed as 100% outlet assessment to all lands based on equivalent hectares. That's it. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from anybody on the Court of Revision or anybody on the floor? Guess I hadn't asked at this point if we have anybody online participate. Okay, hearing none. Jessica, do we have any written correspondence?
No.
Correspondence? No questions? So at this point, unless there's any other questions or anybody like to make a quick statement?
Would you like it to?
Like might be a strong word. If you really must, I would consider it. Allow me to read our first motion. Moved by Councillor Bob Wolvett, seconded by Councillor Mike Facey. The court confirms the assessments on the Whiting Drain as contained in the engineer's report dated March 6, 2024. All in favor? Carried. Motion moved by Councillor Mike Vesey, seconded by Councillor Bob Wolvett. Court of Revision meeting for the Whiting Drain. Here, so adjourned. Favor? All in favor and carried. That concludes our Court of Revision meeting. Further instruction from the mayor, maybe we could take a personal break for another 5 minutes.
Agreed.
Okay, let's do that.
Welcome back, everyone. Council will take you to we'll go to 8.6. Thank you, Councillor Van Claveren, for that drainage meeting. On 8.6, I have a motion by Councillor Wolvet, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the report by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated May the 3rd, 2024, regarding the Plympton wastewater treatment plant outfall rehabilitation, geotechnical and bathymetric survey recommendation received in the quote by Englobe in the amount of 78,800 plus HST to perform a geotechnical investigation. The quote by Monteith and Sutherland in the amount of $8,700 plus HST to perform a bathymetric survey be approved. Mr. De Silva, the author of that report, is here. Are there any questions? Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you. So I wanted to know how old is this pipe?
Through your worship, I believe it was installed when the plant was built in 70. No, later?
90s.
Oh, in the 90s? Okay, there you go.
So,
You would know better than me.
I thought it was 81 or 82.
81 or 82.
so not when, like, so when we got all our sewers put in? That was in the 90s.
Started.
Plant would have been first.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, like it. And what depth is the pipe? Like, do you know, like how deep it is in the?
Yes, so the pipe is actually submerged beneath the lake bed
Oh,
in 75% of it. It's the 50 meters that have started to float or erosion has completely removed the cover over top of the pipe. So now we're looking at solutions as to how to weigh that pipe down and keep it down for now and into the future.
yeah, so when they originally put the pipe in, wouldn't they have done the geotechnical survey back then? Before they could even put that pipe in the lake?
Through your worship, we cannot find the records of that geotechnical investigation, so we have to perform another one.
Okay.
The township staff that did them.
Probably on paper, they can't find it.
Thank you, Councillor Basie.
Well, and to add to that, the lake bottom is constantly shifting too, so the information is probably not necessarily valid at this point.
And that's okay. The marine mat, or whatever you call that, mattressing stuff. That's that white wrap that goes around the pipes. Is that what that is?
So through your worship, we,
Tutorial here too.
yeah, I provided an update to the Environmental Committee meeting, I think 2 months ago, which showed a few pictures, and I probably should have included it now. We haven't decided on an exact material, but it will be articulating, so it will go along the lake bed and then cover over top of the pipe and then along, and there's synthetic materials you could use, or you could use concrete, for example. That part of the detailed design just hasn't been fleshed out yet.
So if I may, this goes back to why I was asking kind of the depth of this pipe. I mean, because you're quite a way distance out from the shore here. And are you gonna be interfering with, you know, there's a lot of boating and things like that. So that's why I'm trying to understand your depths here, which can change. I don't know if they change in this area necessarily. I'm trying to picture.
Yeah.
And how it could interfere.
Sure,
with the lake.
It's sufficiently deep at this point. We're talking 12 to 15 feet. But I can provide some additional information once we get our bathymetric survey done to confirm exact elevation.
Yeah, and what else would be nice to know is if you're putting something like that in the lake, and the way you're describing it, you could actually cause buildup of the lake bed floor there because the flow of the sediment would get stopped by that. So that would all be interesting to know too.
Yeah, it's being designed by some engineers with Jacobs, so we'll lean on their expertise on this one.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Council will go to 8.7. I have a motion by Councillor Wilbeth, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren. That the report by Aaron Kawarchuk, clerk, dated May the 2nd, 2024, regarding a website transition proposal be received and staff be directed to bring forward a bylaw and agreement to transition from iCreate to GovStack for council's consideration. Kawarchuk is here. If there's any questions to my left, to my right, Councillor Basie.
This is one we were gonna do if we got a grant, was it not?
Correct. We applied for the grant and we were not successful. So we will continue to look for grant opportunities. But this wouldn't be considered until 2025 budget deliberations.
So
So if we got a grant between now and then, we could apply again if there was something that was applicable.
so when do we need to switch by?
They haven't given us a deadline date. What they're saying right now is we're providing discounts to try and get everyone to transition over. Once we're forced to transition, I don't know what that price will be, what the timelines will be, and what sort of annual agreements will be having to sign on to at that time. We have a good relationship with them, and I think they're trying to offer this to us to keep our good relationship and give us the discounts. But I don't know, they haven't said by a certain date they will transition over, but at the same time, we also obviously brought it to council last year because we're concerned with ensuring we're meeting the accessibility standards that need to be met in 2025 as well.
That answer your question, Councillor Basie?
Yeah, I guess.
Councillor Van Claveren?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I remember talking about this at a previous meeting, and to try and find a local isn't too realistic. But it always strikes me as a little interesting when they give us a benefit if we decide early when we really don't have a choice of whether we're gonna change or not. You're either gonna completely leave our company or you're gonna go to GovStack. So it's a little disingenuous, which I can kind of accept because that's how sales could sometimes work. And that I thought the comparison was cute too, because it doesn't matter because we can't stay with the existing one anyways. And by their own admission, they were saying that the present system is hard to manipulate, has very few options to design online, not enough security and not AODA compliant. So do we get a refund on paying for iCreate all this time? When it's not a sufficient system that they.
I think, through your worship, I think that, excuse me, the insufficient system comes with time. They build a website platform, it meets everything, and then it becomes obsolete so fast. So rather than paying annually to upgrade those things, they probably take a while to rebuild the new system to that day's standards, and that's where it is. I don't see a discount being offered for this current website that we have right now, but we look forward to the efficiencies that they've found in their new system. If we can get there, yeah.
Yes, and fair enough. I completely understand.
Yeah.
Technology is changing so quick and
So quickly.
you gotta change with it. It would be cool if maybe they were just a little more forthcoming about it.
Sure, and we don't know what's happening in their business. What their, as you said, sales or budgets or what they're trying to accomplish by giving us this. I know that they do like to have municipalities transfer so that they can then show municipalities that are looking to transfer, look, that go to Plympton-Wyoming's website, they've already transferred to this and you can see what it's gonna look like. So it's kind of a showcase for them.
Yes.
So that's one reason I know that they were looking to get people on board.
Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Wilbeth and Councillor Bolger.
I think John had some of the points that I was gonna make too. I mean, this iCreate was the greatest thing that ever come along since sliced bread here 2 or 3 years ago. We had to have it, and it was gonna be the elite of the system. Now here we are already no good, obsolete. So John hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's technology. it changes so rapidly that, and I mean, every time they make a change, they make big bucks too, so you don't have a lot of choice unless there's another party you can go to and try and get the same type of thing, but so we kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, I guess, but
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Counselor Bojan.
Thank you. Just to add to John's point too, it's whether it's for better or for worse, it's not just sales, it's GHD bought out the company that had eSolutions or iCreate. So I think it's also one of those things where it's creating their own, because GHD bought the former company. And then the other thing I'll add too is just, it's an unfortunate reality that they have a monopoly on municipal websites right now. There's not a lot of competition, which is just an unfortunate reality with all the integrations you get in terms of council meetings and minutes and all of that jazz. It's just, there needs to be more options, but there isn't any right now.
Counselor Basie.
Will this create a third website to try and find stuff when I'm searching that I'm on the wrong one? So I have to go to a second one, which is the town website, but not the portal to the meetings, which is where the minutes are located, but they're not located because they're over on the old one, because the old one. Will that help with any of that? Because I can't find anything on our website when I want it. Clerk, so I call
Your
the clerk,
worship.
and she finds it for me.
I can help you at any time. It should be pretty straightforward that I can see, because we did transfer here in 2019 was our first year doing iCompass on the website was 2019, so there is old minutes on the old side and new, but we're 5 years out now, so we should be good, but it will physically replace our website. So you should still only have our website and the iCompass for the agendas and minutes, which are linked together. But I can always help you anytime you need it, and you can do a tutorial if we need.
Okay. Anything further on this one?
Here's one little quick question, please, Mr. Mayor. Is this a service we can buy in partnership with other municipalities, like some of our other services?
That's a great idea, but I don't think that's an option. Each municipality, and everybody formats their websites so differently. Although there may be base sort of templates, everybody does things differently and we're all responsible for our own content, so.
Fair enough.
Not an option for that, but we will continue to look for grants that could supplement this in the meantime. And again, this is not tying council's hands and budget deliberations in 2025. If that's not approved, the contract is null and void, so. Locking in that discount.
Okay, Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you. Users license. How many licenses do you get? Like, is this based on licenses for people to be able to access it in the back end? To do your updates and stuff?
No, there's, no, it covers the staff fully, yeah.
It does,
Yeah,
okay, so there's no limitations there, okay.
Mr. Sabansky.
And just to make sure, give council a little further information, our existing website was created in 2017. So it's already been in place for well over 5 years, so. The technology, it does require an update to make sure it is meeting our current branding, our current information, which in the current website is no longer financially feasible because the old system is no longer supported.
Deputy Mayor.
Oh, I think we should keep up with all this newest development technology, that means.
Yeah.
I just had to say that.
With a hint of sarcasm there. All right, let's call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, clerk. All right, let's go to 8.8. We have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolvet. That the report by Ella Flynn, Executive Assistant Deputy Clerk, dated April the 30th, 2024, regarding council chambers upgrades be received and staff be directed to proceed with recommendations A to C as outlined in the report. The author of that report, Ms. Flynn, is with us. If you have any questions, I'll begin on my left. Deputy?
Oh, I do have some comments. given how fast our municipality is growing and the age of this building, I'm just wondering if we should defer this particular new desk thing, and I can bring some those slats in, you know, so somebody can open their drawer a little easier than what they're opening. They're having trouble opening their drawer, you know, and we don't need to buy new stuff right now. But that was another bit of sarcasm, okay? And so could we defer this to another, I don't know to when, maybe in camera, because it should be more discussions on this, I think.
It would depend on the discussion that's happening in camera. So maybe we can talk about that and we can discuss that if it's
Well,
different this evening.
I'm saying like with this growing municipality,
Future.
I think a new building is necessary sometime in the future, nearer future than further future. And I don't know what you would be doing with this building, whether, you know, you're gonna renovate the whole thing, tear the whole thing down, put a new one up. I don't know, but that's the kind of discussion I think we should be having before we buy all new furniture and renovate this whole. Spend, what is it, $25,000? No, 15. Before we spend $15,000 on just prettying this room up.
Councilor Van Claveren, anything from you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like staff's recommendations as far as design and the contractors and so on, although I kind of think along the same lines as the deputy mayor that it's okay, not necessarily have it right away if we can do some discussions on some longer term planning maybe.
Councilor Wolvett, anything from you?
Oh, I think it's not a lot of money in the scheme of things, and we think we're gonna have a new building here in the next,
Let's be very clear.
I'm being very clear. If we're gonna have to put up with what we have here for the next 15 or 20 years, it doesn't make sense. So it takes a long time to develop or design new facilities. I agree with Nettie about it is a growing community, but you know, that's a lot of discussion to be had. So you know, I mean, this is pretty ancient stuff that we have here, you know, and I just don't see anything much happening in the future, but so I don't think it would hurt to go ahead with this. It's just a desk. We already got the chairs. Chairs are already here, so really just the roundabout, but I guess to support Nettie, I can go either way if, you know, mine too.
Thank you, Councilor. My left, Councilor Rodriguez.
Okay. So I personally like option one, Manly's. Are we picking which ones?
The first of all. Are we interested in doing something now? I think that is our first thing that we need to.
Well, I think when we first talked about this at budget time and put money aside for it, it was decided then that you know, there was accessibility discussion too, and putting in a new desk can go in a new building down the road. It's not stuck here. So I think we should move forward for sure, and I'd like to see that a little bit of modernization and accessibility for everybody here.
I don't think we could ever get a wheelchair in.
No. So
And you like.
No, I can't pick.
You like Manly's?
I liked that round one. That's a nice circle. It's very modern looking. But it was the most expensive one.
How's it gonna fit?
But I also wanted to mention on the carpeting, if carpeting was part of this. If consideration could be given to what's the word, environmentally sensitive people, like for, you know, they say less than a half-inch ply, nylon's better. Things like that, and more, and it's also more accessible. But anyway, those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Basie.
Yes, your worship, thank you. I'm glad to see we got something. We've also been trying to replace our works department for 15 years now, and we're still nowhere closer. I agree with Nettie that this building's too small, but it's what we got. I'm trying to come up with the word I was looking for, Ella, for this. And I find none of these desks look regal at all. Cookie cutter. You know, for the money we're spending. Me, I don't like any of them. I think it's, I don't want to say the word, but a company that you go buy your furniture from and put it together yourself is what it looks like. Becoming that we're right by any means, but there should be a little bit of, like I say, regalness or something when you enter this chamber, not right now it's coming into somebody's workshop and they threw a desk together, so.
I can't.
But I am happy we're at least having this discussion because it's been 3 years in the making.
Mr. Szymanski?
So Ella did approach a number of carpenters to see if they'd be interested in providing us a quote to hand build a council chamber table. We were not able to attain any quotes. There was little to no.
Get one?
You got one, which
A local carpenter, so it's actually up on the screen right now.
did you, Ella?
So that would be, it wouldn't be like the particle board with the laminate veneer on it. This would be actually made of wood, and I believe just the countertop would be laminate. He offered granite, but we'll see where things go. So the option up on the screen right now, that would actually be made of wood. He can do different shapes as well. The circular shape was harder for the laminate companies to do, so I thought, why not see about a price on that, because the round shape is more expensive than the squared shapes because there's more cuts involved with this. So if a more squared shape is the preference, I can reach out and get a second quote. I just wanted to be able to present lots of different options, so you guys can kind of try and visualize what would work best in this room, and then we can go from there.
Thank you, Ella.
My apologies, I misunderstood you.
Mr. Councillor Wojcik?
Thank you, your worship. Yeah, I think I was a little bit hesitant when we first talked about it, and I'm still a little hesitant because we budgeted 50. You add HST, you add the cost of the electrician and the electrical work, the inevitable extras associated with jobs like this, that unforeseen costs that get baked into it. I think we're gonna be above 25, which we just talked about needing to change a website, which I think from the public's perspective would be a lot more important to spend some money on. And I think paint can go a long way. I think the Kamalaki Fire Hall, the guys and gals put some in there and just painted and put vinyl floor down, and it looks like a brand new spot. So I do think a paint job in here, even if you wanted to sand and paint this existing desk, I think it'll still go a long way. I'm not comfortable for a lot of reasons in terms of where we're at in this room and in this building. Lipstick on a pig kind of comes to mind. Like that's what we're doing. And I think we can do that with paint. The carpet looks fine to me. Paint the walls, paint the desk. That's where I'm at.
Thank you. Councillor Wovette?
Not that long ago, we put the new carpets in here and painted this room, as we painted the whole building. Years ago now?
That would have been 2017.
Yeah,
So quite a while
it was
ago.
all painted, but.
But that is 6 years ago now. You're
Yeah.
correct. And there's been a number of repairs, which unless you get the exact paint for the exact company, the exact same lot, it's hard to match. So as you can see some of our
Some
repairs.
good points made, I guess.
So hearing council's discussion, there's if you want to move forward with it, you would have to tell us which one you want to move forward with. I am getting the impression that the majority of council would prefer to hold off onto it until we can build something, for lack of better words, grander, befitting of the municipality, and possibly in the medium to long term, a new office to accommodate that. So if you defeat the motion today, I would suggest then that you pass a second motion directing staff to refurbish the council chambers with new paint and repairs as needed to make it more functional. We may have to adjust our current electrical situation just to be a little bit more sustainable. And I would suggest that would be part of the repairs and improvements.
There would be no leaf cords underneath tripping over.
The fire chief is online, sir, so, but yes.
Tension cords, I think a lot of things are legal here.
We would be improving the current electrical situation, yes.
Councilor, are you comfortable with what we just discussed if we did that? At least we're making some headway.
So, and just keep in mind, by defeating this specific report, it's not, you're defeating any improvement in the future. You're just, your conversation can come back, correct, Aaron? That's, so it doesn't have to be reconsidered and we can get direction just to carry out improvements and repairs.
Okay, I think the existing motion can just be amended, and it would just be that staff proceed with recommendation C. Recommendation C was just for staff to paint. That be directed to touch up and paint council chambers.
We had spoke about the electrical as well. You're correct, because it's very specific, A to C, that if this was defeated and they came back, it would be a totally different proposal, be a different motion. This would be separate.
This would be off the table then.
However, we don't necessarily have to defeat it if we just amend it to approve option C, which including electrical upgrades as needed.
The mover and seconder are okay with the amendments, correct?
Councilor Wolfett?
So would, for just painting and sprucing it up with the office budget cover that? We wouldn't have to.
I wouldn't suggest that the office budget would cover that. I would suggest the monies that you allocated from reserves would more than cover that.
You're the seconder on that, Councilor Wolfett. Are you okay with that?
I am okay with that.
Councilor Van Cleven?
Yes, sir.
Explain what exactly that motion's saying. What's
My
number C?
The direction I've been understanding, providing that staff will look to have the chambers repainted,
Right.
including this desk, and make repairs to the desk as needed to hopefully get some of these drawers working a little bit better and improve the electrical system to meet current
Okay.
needs.
All right. I thought you were choosing a desk too, so.
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Not yet.
So, recommendation C is-
Okay, so we're clear. I have a motion by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Councilor Wolfett, that the report by Ella Flynn, Executive Assistant Deputy Clerk, dated April 30th, 2024, regarding the council chamber upgrades, be received, and the staff be directed to proceed with recommendation C as outlined in the report, plus upgrading the electrical. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Ms. Flynn, for the work you did on that. Okay, council, we're gonna go to item 8.9. Remember, that was the supplemental one that we had, moved by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren. That the report by Nicole Campbell, Executive Assistant Corporate Services, dated May 6th, 2024, regarding an application to Ontario Inclusive Community Grant be received, and that council supports the application for improvements to the accessibility of Highland Glen Beach. Everybody had a chance to review that. Are there any questions? Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you. So if you're successful and if you got this, which I'm glad to hear we're applying for it, where would you store that?
Store the Moby mats and the ramp. Possibly the Quonset hut or other locations within the public works areas.
Any further? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to item 9, bylaws. 9.1, moved by Councillor Wolbett, seconded by Councillor Van Claver. That bylaw 21 of 2024 for the Confederation Line East and Norman Street South Drain, an extension of the King Anderson Drain 2024, being a bylaw to provide the drainage works in the town of Plympton-Wyoming, the county of Lambton, be taken as having been read a third time and finally passed on this 8th day of May 2024, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the bylaw accordingly. Questions? All those in favor? Carried. Council will go to 9.2. Motion by Councillor Wolbett, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that bylaw 34 of 2024 being a bylaw to provide for the management and control of the Wyoming Public Cemetery and all inactive cemeteries in the town of Plympton, Wyoming, be approved and taken as having been read 3 times. Mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Are there any questions on this report? Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor? Great. Thank you to the cemetery committee and to the staff for moving this along. Okay, 9.3, council. Moved by Councillor Bozen, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez. The bylaw 53 of 2024, being a bylaw to provide the final tax levy for the year 2024 for properties in residential and farmland, farmland waiting development, multi-residential, new multi-residential, commercial, shopping center, farmland, pipeline, industrial, large industrial, landfill, parking lot, and managed forest classes, and small scale on farm commercial and industrial business, first and second subclasses, and to provide for the payment of taxes and to provide for penalty and interest of 1.25% per month. Be approved and is taken and read 3 times. Mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on that? Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you. Industrial turbines operate on farmland. How are they taxed?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, are they, how was my question? So are they under the industrial?
I believe they are taxed.
I think they're,
I thought they were taxed extremely low, as in the agricultural rate. They weren't taxed industrial. I remember at the time of the wind turbines, everyone.
Thought it was commercial. Good question.
Because I remember people being very upset that they were getting taxed so low.
Mhm.
There was delegations to the province
Yeah.
in that matter as well.
Yeah.
for times.
Was. Fine.
Because, the reason why I'm asking is because I believe a report will be coming back to us sometime about the turbines as per our discussion at budget time. We were going to review, you were going to pull out the contracts, with these turbines, understand if, they can actually expand on those, if they had, ones they hadn't used yet,
Alternate sites.
And because there was some interest in renewing the whole industrial turbine expansion in Ontario. Do you remember this conference?
I do remember, I don't remember necessarily being asked for a report. So we don't have access to the contracts themselves, those are provincial contracts. So the initial information that was provided to us did show additional sites that were approved by the province, but they did not install those sites. So whether or not they can install those sites now or not, I'd have to talk to the province to find out. I'm not sure that we have that knowledge at this time.
So when I'm talking about the contract, I'm not talking about the farmers' contract with the turbine companies. I'm talking about they had something here that they had to sign with us where the decommission. We're only 10 years away from decommission on, if it's 20 years. So all those kinds of details are written up, some sort of, documents that we have here on them. So, and you were gonna bring it back because the reason why is because we want to talk about the reserve that's sitting there and, readdress that as well. Its first intended purpose and what, might happen to that reserve going forward.
And forgive me if I misunderstand the verbal conversation. So the decommissioning agreement only covers the decommissioning of the wind turbines that were installed during the initial project. The road use agreement only applied to the construction and decommissioning of those. It didn't speak to whether or not more turbines were built as part of the projects.
Okay, well, that's fine.
So I believe where we left off, the last bit of the conversation is what it had initially brought up, that we should use that reserve for something else. We further discussed that we should consult the people who donated that money. Staff had mentioned that there could be additional legal costs when decommissioning comes around in ensuring that they meet their obligations under the decommissioning agreements. I think we did receive a letter from Waite PW confirming that they'd like those costs held onto for those purposes. So I'm aware that I was given, I don't believe I was given direction from council as a whole to further investigate those existing agreements to determine where that legality lies at this time. I believe the discussion ended when we got the letter from Wade saying that, yes, we want
So-
those monies held on to for future.
Wait, did not reply during that time. They were supposed to, but
I
did.
believe we received it after the course, after.
So I'm actually meeting with them tomorrow. With one of them tomorrow on
So-
this subject, but
Because it's monies that the town are holding, I would prefer them to meet with staff. And if they'd like to have a discussion on what those funds should be held for into the future, we can have them join us at council to have that discussion as council as a whole, given the circumstances.
for sure. But also because when we were talking back then, it was about, you know, how does decommissioning look? What is the credit note that's on file? You know, as a deposit. On those things need to be understood.
They're on our.
Should be
records,
refreshed.
But they,
It's been.
they are available to all councilors to review if they wish. I don't recall being provided direction to bring a full report for reviewing those
Fine.
agreements. It would be fairly time consuming to do so. If council as a whole wished me to do that, I will absolutely do that. But that is a time consuming endeavor to do so.
Okay, let's move this along, clerk.
Right, I just found it. So Norma and I are kind of both correct in how they're taxed. So they are taxed at saying an industrial tower, but it's per rate of 40,000.
Yeah.
So it's not based on the value of the turbine, which would be a lot more. It's 40, and then they're called industrial tax rates, but they have a specific.
40,000, right, Eric?
Correct.
Right. And we tried to challenge that, if you recall, back, we tried to go to the province and then, no, that's what it is. We got a cap on it, 40,000, so that's all you can tax it on.
So it says the land beneath the tower, which is approximately 1 acre per tower, is assessed and taxed at the industrial rate for commercial wind energy operators and for private residential farm generators with turbines in excess of 500 kilowatt capacity. And assessed and taxed at the residential or farm rate for towers that have a generation capacity of 500 kilowatts or less, are located on residential or farm property and generate electricity primary for their own use. So that's how they.
Thank you.
Thanks, clerk, for digging that up. Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Okay. In 9.4, we have an encroachment agreement with 639 Broadway, moved by Councillor Wolbett, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that bylaw 50 of 2024 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Aaron James Shyman, Olivia Bonde, and Kendra Pelpley. In the town of Plympton-Wyoming be authorized as having been read 3 times, the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. I think we did this last year, did we not, for local?
Comment on that. So previously, these agreements were only done for 1 year, since LOCA started. So it's been brought back to council. This is the 3rd year in a row. Everything on both ends, we feel it's been a really good relationship. They've been following all their provisions of the agreement. So instead of doing an annual renewal, this time we're proposing a 5-year. So they'd still be required to provide us with their proof of insurance. So that way, should anything happen, we at least know that they are insured. But it would kind of save this administrative work and save them money, so they're not having to come and pay the $80 every single year for the same bylaw to get approved, and staff to have to change all the information every single year. So we negotiated with them, and both parties were comfortable with the 5-year term. But obviously that's up to council, if you guys have any differing opinions on the term.
Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, staff, for that work on that. Good to support local. No pun included. Okay, let's go to item 10. Correspondence received. 10.1. Motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Wolbet. That the correspondence, the correspondence suggests the following motion. That the fees for Arrow Village School to rent the Kamlaki Community Center be waived for the grade 8 graduation, which will be held on Friday, June 21st, 2024. I think there's a little history on this one, clerk, is there not, that this, we've given that before? Yes.
Correct, your worship. So in the past, there was an agreement with the school to provide their, the venue at no cost. However, last year council passed the fees, the fee waiver policy. And so now we have to come to you for permission.
Any questions, Councilor Wolbet?
Well, I guess just a comment. They have used it in the past and we've waived the fees. I think it's it's a graduation for our grade 8 students, a very worthwhile project, and I think a great community event. And it kind of puts them in a bad spot this year because they did all their planning and now we're saying, hold on, we've changed our policy. So I think we should go ahead and waive their fees for them.
Councilor Van Clever.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems very appropriate if we provided folks the opportunity to with a free will offering. So I have an offering box there, sort of like a tip jar. Because obviously we're having this request more often. All the causes are great causes. If it was one of my bunch and they were in there and the cost was free in some way, and if I felt it was least bit worthwhile, I would want to somehow show my appreciation to that facility, Blue Water Optimist, so on and so forth. Make that available to people.
Thank you. Deputy, anything from you? Councilor Vacy.
Yes, I think it's good. I would caveat in there that they clean it the satisfaction of the optimists, so the optimists shouldn't have to come in and clean it. They're the ones doing it, so I have no
They've got a number.
worries about waiving the fee, but it like on the optimist.
Thank you.
Back on Saturday and clean the hall up, put the chairs away and all that kind of stuff.
And I'm not familiar with the rental agreement, but does the rental agreement speak to that?
There's some cleaning provisions, but not
Yeah.
full cleaning provisions.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because do we not have the cleaners that we use here that go after events?
The optimists are the cleaners of the CCC.
We could amend the motion, or we direct staff to ask them to do that if.
So what's your feeling? Do we have some to put back or?
I think that goes with the territory.
Ms. Lynn?
It's part of the rent regardless.
The contracts do state that all garbages are to be taken out, and I believe the hall's to be left in the same condition that it was as when you arrived. So obviously, if there's, you know, confetti or whatever all over the floor, they would be expected to sweep. But I don't think it goes as far as, you know, mopping the floors and dusting and cobwebbing and so forth.
We probably wouldn't have much spillage from the bar at this event.
You never know.
If that's already in the agreement, I think that covers it pretty well right there to put it back. So I don't have a problem. I think it's great community relations. Personally. Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. 10.2. Moved by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Vaizey. That the correspondence suggests the following motion. The council allows an exemption to Lambton EMS for the definition of a special event under bylaw 6/2024 to allow a mobile food truck to operate on public property, which is the Kamlaki Community Center / Arnold Manaley Park, for a private event occurring May 21st, 2024. And I believe that's in the hours from 4 o'clock till 8 or somewhere in that range, I believe. Any questions on this one? Yes, sir.
Just for council's information, I would suggest that the motion be amended if the mover and seconder are deem it appropriate. In discussions with Lambton EMS as manager today, they forgot to submit the request for the fee waiver, similar to as you just read from Errol Village School. EMS is obviously a county group. They are funded through municipal and county tax dollars and provide a service to the municipality. As such, they have asked that we could waive the rental fees for them. We obviously would retroactively the request form for them after the fact and sign it if council supports that motion. So in addition to the motion before you, I'd also add to that and that the fees be waived as per the policy.
Council, what's your feeling on that? Are we comfortable with that? I don't hear no contrary, and I believe we're looking in the future at possibly one of their outlets in our community. Would you mind, Councillor Vaizey?
Yes, I think it's definitely worthwhile, but would this be something expected of us next year, or will it move to a different municipality to host it so that they can pay for it? Or are we expected to be because of our perfect location within the county and being the center of pretty much everyone's universe, everybody wants to hold their functions here and close to the county seat. So we're kind of behind the 8 ball with hosting everybody else's, you know, they're part of the county, so.
Clark, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, we've never had them request a fee waiver on this, so I don't know what their future plans hold. We do share a lot of amenities with the county as well. We use their meeting rooms at the County of Lambton building and peer resources. I don't know what precedents it may set and what requests you may get, obviously, but it's something that we do share with them as they waive a lot of fees for us.
So what I have a proposal in front of me is that motion and that the fees be waived for the event added to it. It's moved by Councillor Bojan, second by Councillor Vaizey. Are you both comfortable with that? Right, call for the vote. All those in favor? Okay. Go to 11.1. I have a motion by Councillor Vaizey, seconded by Councillor Bojan, that correspondence items A to K related to recommended reading and routine approval and information items to be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. So council, that's A to K. Does anybody have anything they'd like to pull or address or be made mention of? I'll begin on my left. Deputy Mayor?
Nothing, thank you.
Councillor Van Claveren?
Nothing for me, sir.
Councillor Wolvet,
Yes, I would like to pull G out of their resolution in relation to exotic wild animals. That's a bylaw that we put in, we put our own exotic animal bylaw into place, I believe in 2020. Member of the public has approached me to ask for this to be removed or separated out so that council and ask that council would approve it. So I don't know what the difference is between this particular bylaw and ours, but I did talk to Karen, the clerk, and maybe she can explain the difference or non-difference.
yes.
Thank you. So we did, as Councilor Wolvet said, approve our own bylaw to regulate keeping of exotic animals in 2020. This resolution is speaking to doing that province-wide, so some municipalities have not done that. They may have zoos that have these and they may want to keep those. So this would be asking to take the province to take that regulation on. And then it's also asking to require a license for zoos, which we haven't spoken to because we don't allow them, so we don't have licenses. So Councilor Wolvet was inquiring if it was worth the council supporting it. I think it is. While we have one of the two things already done, supporting another municipality that may not have that, having the province be more uniform, and the licensing of zoos is something that we have not considered. I think it could be.
So yeah, so that's a good explanation. So this resolution obviously go to the province. The province, if they're gonna make the final decision, so all we're doing is supporting these municipalities. So I would ask the council to consider on behalf of the individual that contacted me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Rodriguez, anything from you?
Yes, I just wanted to point out the Accessibility Advisory Committee. That there's currently two positions open. For persons with disability to be able to sit on the Accessibility Advisory Committee with the County of Plympton. That was it.
Good. I was gonna mention that.
Oh,
one as well.
sorry.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you did. Councillor Vacy, anything from you?
No, mine was taken. Thank you.
Councillor Bolgen,
Nothing for me, thank you.
all right? G. Okay, Councillor Wolvet, you're gonna you're gonna move that one that you suggested. I'm looking for a seconder for Councillor Wolvet. Yeah, I've got Councillor Rodriguez. Okay, going back to the original one, I have a motion by Councillor Vacy, seconded by Councillor Bolgen. Correspondence item A to K relating to recommended reading and routine approval and information items be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council, filed accordingly, save and accept for item G. All those in favor? Carried. And I have a motion by Councillor Wolvet, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez, that council supports correspondence item G from St. Catharines regarding provincial regulations needed to restrict the keeping of non-native exotic wild animals. All those in favor? Carried. All right, let's go to item 12, new business. Councillor Wolvet, let's begin with you. Anything new business for you?
Only one item, it's just more information, and that is that in the independent newspaper, I'm sure everybody's read it by now, they're talking about certainly the congestion at Arrow Road Public School. They are going to build onto that school this, I believe this summer, and it was a cost of 3-point-some million. It's now up over 6 million, but province is going to go ahead anyways. However, that even with the new addition on that school, they're over capacity. So this is just information only, but with the new subdivisions and that we're have been considering here, it's going to make the situation even worse. And that was discussed here at the meeting when we talked about that new subdivision out there. So it's just an information thing only, but they're gonna have to move portables in there, even though they're gonna spend $6 million on an addition, so just for council to think about when we're approving these subdivisions and amount of people that are going to be out there, so. The reason I bring it up here is because it's just talking about maybe taking a look at relocating some of those students to different areas, but right from the board, they've said, no, they're not going to consider that right now, but like I say, they are over capacity and will still be after all the new additions put on, so we're approving all these subdivisions and that. Certainly the infrastructure, including schools, that need to be certainly considered. And that information needs to go to these school boards to find out what's their plans, so. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Sabansky.
So I did attend a planning session with the school board. And one thing they asked municipalities to do, which we've all been negligent to do, not to do so, is they haven't traditionally provided comments on development proposals. They do have a planning email now, and they're asking us to circulate draft plans, subdivisions, school board, so that at a minimum, they're aware of forthcoming developments, so that they can make the proper provisions in the future. So I'll work with planning staff to make sure that they're aware of that contact information and that we are circulating them on planning applications that would affect their attendance.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Van Claveren.
No new business for me, sir.
Deputy Mayor.
No new business.
Okay, Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you. Just had questions. So for the Lakeshore Road. I haven't heard anything. I think it was anticipated that that construction would begin on Lakeshore Road between Mondawmin and Egremont. Do we have any updates on that?
That'd be the county, Mr. DeSilva.
Yes.
Yeah, through your worship, I've been in constant contact with the county. As soon as I have a construction schedule for that, I will bring it to council so that you are aware. And we'll also do our own public notification as well through our media.
Oh, no news.
No news at this point. I am meeting with them on Friday, so I can ask the question again.
Thank you.
Councillor Basie.
Nothing, your worship.
Councillor Bolger.
Yes, I do have two things. Just building off that is one of them. I obviously wasn't here for that planning meeting. And speaking of that Lakeshore Road, from my understanding, there's a conversation happening between our county staff about Lakeshore access. If they're gonna be adding left turning lanes at Fleming, I think it is, and they're talking about all these left, are we ensuring that they're aware, like if they should probably put a left turning lane if they're thinking about letting us have access to that subdivision? So is that conversation happening too, that the county's thinking, like if we're gonna provide access for construction vehicles, they should probably put left turning lane with the foresight of allowing that to happen, or is that just not even a conversation right now? Yeah, through your worship, it's certainly gonna be part of the conversation. Unfortunately, all of that detailed design is completed. They are moving forward with construction this year, so installing a left turn lane might be out of the question at this point in terms of it happening this year. We are asking them to update their traffic impact study, and we'll see what the recommendations come out of there, but the original one did not recommend that access be given on Lakeshore Road. So the first conversation we're gonna have with the county is A, will you permit construction access? And B, will you permit a permanent access? If that's the case, then we have to have some future conversations regarding whether, we're gonna install a left turn lane in the future or whether it's even going to be required. So yes, those conversations are happening, but unfortunately it will not be included in this year's construction project. Yeah, thanks for my question. And then my second one is, now that the weather's getting nice again, I'm getting more complaints about dogs and off-leash dogs at Arnold Neely Park in the Ball Diamonds. I know we've kicked this around a lot. There's signage, there was something in the newsletter, so the education piece doesn't seem to be working. So I'm just wondering if we can put that in staff's court, whether it's get bylaw down there to give verbal warnings or get bylaw down there. I've gotten a few complaints with different people. And if we have a bylaw that says no dogs on a baseball diamond and it's disrupting the neighbors, I think we should probably at least do something. So I just wanted to bring that forward, maybe let staff sit on that or.
we'll talk to our bylaw enforcement. There are two pieces of bylaw that could address that. The dog ownership bylaw, correct me if I'm reading it incorrectly, and the parks bylaw does prohibit that as well. So we will have a discussion with our bylaw enforcement officers to decide how best to address that, whether it's stopping by occasion to see if there's off-leash dogs at the park.
Okay, I have nothing new under new business, so council, we're gonna go, I have a motion to close session. During in-camera meeting, I have motion by Councillor Vacy, seconded by Councillor Bojan, the council move into an in-camera meeting of council pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons. Item A, employee matters, section 239, bracket 2, bracket D, labor relations or employee negotiations. All those in favor? Carried. For those that are with us virtually, we thank you very much for joining us this evening. We'll be going in camera, we'll be coming back out and then closing the meeting down. So we thank you very much for being with us. For those that were with us in person this evening,